In this part of the program, we'll focus on some important Excel tools that you may use in your day-to-day working. To begin with, we have this case of Bright Lights Corp over here, which we had referred to earlier in our basic Excel program as well, and at one point during advanced Excel as well. So let us revisit this case. We have some names over here: department, engagement type, date of joining, monthly salary, and annual salary over here. Now I see that the names are in the form of last name, and then you have the first name and then the middle name. So that's the format of last name, comma, first name, space, middle name. Now I would like to separate them and have them each in separate columns over here. So it should be something like last name and another column for first name, and then you have middle name. That should make it a lot better. That should be quite convenient then if we have them separate. So let me adjust the columns over here, and yes, to start with, we have this text to columns feature over here, and we'll make the best use of this. So what do we have here? No data was selected. First, I need to select the data that I want to convert to text, convert to columns. So when you have this is nothing but text. And when you click on text to columns, it will actually split all these words into separate columns here. Let me show you how. Now, when you click on this, it asks you for, this is the text wizard. And over here, it will ask you whether the kind of separation that you need, is it delimited or fixed width? Now, when you say delimited, that means the words are separated by certain characters such as commas or tabs, etc. It could also mean spaces as well. Now, when you say fixed width, it's about fields are aligned in columns with spaces between each field. Now, if I were to select fixed width and click on next, you see here, I do not see any separators. I might just want to click here and show this Bruce McGill. The McGill word ends here. So this becomes my separator, and then I might just want to shift this separator ahead. But take a look at this. Huffman, N and the comma is coming in the second partition, and third partition we have a space and then Melvin. So there is no consistency between the names, and hence the fixed width approach of separating the words or the text into multiple columns may not be a good idea, because here we can see the preview, and if you were to say this, that's where Bruce ends, then Melvin would be split into multiple columns. Let me show you what exactly will happen if I click on next. I click on next. Destination, where do I want this to? By default, the destination is the same place where you have selected. Okay, so in case if you want this to be overwritten, then you can leave it as it is. But let me tell you, we are splitting this into 4 columns over here. You see there are 4 partitions. That means the rest of the 3 columns will also be overwritten. There won't be any addition of columns. Let me show you by clicking on finish. There is already data here. Do you want to replace it? If I click OK, you see, department, engagement type, date of joining has vanished. And look at this, how it looks like. It's quite haywire. So let me undo this. This is not what I need. What I need is delimited. Now, fixed width would have been a good idea in case if you're working with certain dates or numbers or any text which has fixed spaces at regular intervals, or maybe a comma or anything as such which you have at fixed intervals. Now here, or fixed length, I would say. Now in this case, we have delimited. I click on next, and it says, okay, what are the delimiters that I have? I have a comma, and also I have a space. So I don't have a tab over here, so I can uncheck this. I have a comma. See, earlier this is how the name looked like. Now the moment I put comma, the names got separated into 2 columns, one before the comma and the other one after the comma. So there are 2 columns this time. Now I also know that there is another set of data which only has spaces as well. For example, take a look at the next column. We have some spaces here. So I would want to add space as well as another set of delimiter. And here we have this. Click on next. Now it will ask you where do you want to change this. This time at least I should be smart enough to change this to a different place. And this is where I will change. This is my destination. Instead of this is by default. It takes the place of selection. But here is the place where I want this. And click on finish. And here we have McGill, Bruce, Suarez Jacob, Michael, Huffman Melvin, everything sorted. So there is no scope of any error over here, and we have the last name, first name, middle name. All we did was we selected this text column, we made a delimited one, and in case if there is a comma, select the comma, space, or if there is an underscore, let's say underscore is not on this list. Okay, there's a long string and there's an underscore, so you might select other and put an underscore, or maybe a period, then you can put that. That's how you can make use of this. Please ignore this area when I clicked on. And then you just need to click on next and show the target and then finish. Now let me cancel this. So this is the beauty of selecting text to columns. Now let us explore another interesting tool in Excel which would help us organize our data and probably even summarize it better, considering that you have tons of rows of records. Now where do we find this tool and the one that I'm referring to? Well, we can find it under the Data tab or the Data menu. Under this, we have a section called Outline. Under Outline, we have Group, Ungroup, and Subtotal. Now, in some versions of Excel, maybe instead of Outline, you might just have these three tools readily available like any other tool over here on the ribbon. Maybe you might just see an icon for these, something like this. Just icons, but no indicator or text indicating what these icons are for. So to begin with, let's make the best use of this and see how it shapes up for us. I would start with the subtotal, but how do we start that? First, I have some interesting data over here. That's global imports, month-on-month data. Now, this data has been sourced from OECD, which stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. We have the website here. This is an open source data that's publicly available, and let us try to analyze this. Now, we have this data. I've just arranged this in a vertical format over here, and we have some data segregated by region, countries, respective months, and corresponding values. To begin with, I would like to see the subtotals region-wise. So how do I start with this? Well, since I have my cursor on the table, I can just click on subtotal. However, in case if that doesn't work, all you need to do is just select this entire table right from top to bottom, go to Outline and click on Subtotal. You get this window here and it asks at each change in what? Which of the columns do you want the subtotals for? I say that at each change in region, that is region wise, I need the totals. Now here we are taking the totals, so it's the sum function. Well, in case if you want to take an average, we also have that option here, max. That's the highest value, and the lowest value is in min and log many. Count may not be a good idea over here because it's a very limited number of countries here, and you will find the data recurring all across. But sum or average would make a lot of sense, maybe even max and min. For now, we'll stick to sum. Now add subtotals too. Now I want to take subtotals of value in US dollars, million. Okay, I do not need to take a subtotal for any of these. Now by default, replace current subtotals is checked. Generally, we leave them checked because that can help us get legitimate, proper, or rather I would say updated data. Now page break between groups, now that's generally for any form of print layout. We don't need to bother about that as of now. Alright, and summary below data. So if I were to click on OK, what do we get? Now let me scroll this all the way to the top and you see Africa, that's one region. Asia is another region. Central America is the third. And then we have a long list from Europe here. And then Middle East. Now when I say Oceania, that's Australia and New Zealand over here. There are many other countries, but we have just an extract of the huge list. And that's the one. Now, and then South America. And then the list continues, repeats again. Now that would be for different months. But take a look at this. The moment I click subtotal, I have the totals for each of these regions. And apart from that, I also see some more lines over here on the left. These are nothing but the grouping tabs here, which have been automatically added. They are at 3 levels, that's level 1, 2, and 3. Now what do they do exactly? Now when you click on these tabs, okay, they would display the data at that level. For example, the highest level is number 3. That means to the detailed level. That's exactly what we are looking at. When you click on the number 3 tab or the highest number of tab, this might go on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You might have a number of layers as well. But when you click on the highest value of that level, you will see the most detailed data. Well, in case if you do not want that much of details, but you just want to leave the subtotals, so you might just want to click on number 2 here. That's the second level of view. And here it is. We have skipped the details and we only have the totals for each of these regions. And then we have a macro level. That's a grand total over here. So this is how we can work with the data over here. And in case if I need the detailed one again, here we have this. Now the benefit over here would be to help us get a better view of the data that we need. It's quite systematic. Maybe I don't want to see the entire European total. So I can just click on this bar over here, or at the bottom we have this minus just below just towards the end of the list we have the minus sign for that particular list. I can click on this or just click on this bar and that's fine. Here we have that European total shrunk over here. Maybe you just don't want to see the European total because that's okay. That's quite a major chunk, but you want to focus on other regions, and here we have the rest. Now, apart from this, we had worked on subtotals. Now let's say I made a mistake, or maybe I do not want to subtotal it anymore, or maybe some changes to be made. So I can just come back here and click on subtotals. In case if you want to remove the subtotals, you can just click on remove all, and that's it. It's gone back to what it was earlier. Now moving up ahead, we also have the other tabs called group and ungroup. Okay. Now group would be the grouping that we had seen on the left with the bars, wherein you had multiple layers of grouping. That's exactly what we can achieve here too. Let's say I want to group Asia. So I can select the rows, click on this and click group. Here we have this. The only thing would be that we do not have the subtotals over here. So this does the job as if like we are hiding the data. You see, Africa and then Central America, row number 5 to 11. All the rows in between are hidden. So this expand and collapse is actually doing the job of grouping. Now we might also consider having subgroups within them as well, something like this. So here we have the subgroups that also does the job. Well, this does not make sense over here or specifically for 2 groups, but just make a quick note over here. This line and the minus spans from here to here. But this is not a grouping for 3 records here. It is just for 2 records. Okay, it's just that the minus sign appears a row below. However, this sign does not have anything to do with this record. So it's only hiding row number 7 and 8. Let me show you. You see, 6, 7 and 8 is hidden, and we have 9, 10, 11 and so on. This is how we can group it. Now, in case, let's say I'll just undo this. Now, I've just removed the grouping, the innermost grouping. Now, let's say I want to also group further Europe. That's all the way till here. I say group. And we have another group called Europe. And now, over here, immediately after Europe, we have Middle East. I also want to group Middle East. So I click on Outline and click on Group. But take a look at this. This group got merged with Europe. Now what exactly happened over here? This has got merged into a single group, Europe and Middle East, all at once. But we wanted them separately. In fact, we had selected them separately. The reason being that there is no gap in between the groups. Since you ended your previous group till this point, Excel automatically considered, even though you were trying to group this into one, Excel considered this to be a part of one whole group. So I would recommend to keep a gap over here. Unlike, take a look over here, we had one group of Asia and then Europe. We did not classify Central America as part of any group, and hence we can see the differentiator over here. The difference or the grouping separately. So in case if there is no way that you have any extra record which need not be grouped, so all you can do is just select this. Maybe, for example, if this is a blank record, then you might be able to group this, something like this. And here we have a fresh record. So be very careful when you're using the grouping. Let me undo this. And in case if you made a mistake or you're no longer interested in groups, then you can just click here and ungroup. It's asking ungroup rows or columns because I just randomly clicked on a cell that was within groups. Hence it's asking. Otherwise, if you were to select the entire rows over here and then click on ungroup, it will just ungroup it for you. Here we also have the option of clear outline, which means any form of grouping in your records that can be ungrouped. So let's click on ungroup, and here we have this column. Well, just like rows, we can also group our columns. Let's say column C and D, I just want them hidden at times or maybe group them together. This two set of data is different and maybe subsequent columns belong to something else. So I can select the column headings by C and D and again click on outline and click group. Here we have this bar this time and I can just click on this. We have it collapsed. That means column C and D are hidden. I click on this plus and it expands. Make a note of these tabs over here, level 1 and 2. 1 is always the macro level. So when you click on this, all the data is shrunk to the very macro level. And if you want more details, click on the next level of tab and you have this. Well, the more number of levels of groupings that you have, the more tabs that you will see. And this would be quite interesting for you to organize your data better. For now, in case if I need to get rid of these tabs, all I need to do is just click on ungroup and that's it. It did not ask me any information because I had already selected the columns. I just clicked ungroup.